So I've got a question for you guys. How do we bring the simplicity back to compound archery? I got my first compound bow from a relative when I was about 12 years old. And I remember I bought my own compound bow, my first bow that I ever bought. It was a Bowtech Assassin for like $600-700. I was 16 years old, and I spent like my entire paycheck on it. I got pretty comfortable, pretty confident with it. It's where I really fell in love with archery, was shooting that bow. But as I got a little bit older, I started to really appreciate minimalism, simplicity. That's one of the things that really drew me to Stoic philosophy in the first place. And after I got into that, I kind of ditched compound archery for quite a bit of time. Had a couple trad bows, some recurves, and really enjoyed the bareness and simplicity that those offered. And that experience is really kind of different in some ways than compound archery. My favorite thing about traditional archery is just the fact that you can have a super old bow and just all the stories and legacy that are in that bow. You know, you're not really chasing the newest technology. You're kind of choosing to live in the past a little bit, but it's a lot less materialistic than compound archery. And I catch myself even now doing it. That's why I'm thinking about it tonight. Is I'm already thinking about what's going to be the next bow that I want to get. What new release do I need to get? What do I need to change with my sight? All that kind of stuff. And not only is it expensive, but it's just kind of sad that it's like never good enough. You know, you see these guys buying new bows every single year, and I'm kind of falling into that trap now, which I absolutely despise. I really wish that something like this, held a little more value, I guess, and that could just be, I don't know, maybe it's a personal thing, but it's hard not to fall into that trap with compound archery. So I'm wondering if you guys have any ways not to do that, so I don't keep looking for the next shiny thing to spend money on. Maybe you have an old compound bow that just shoots great. It's interesting too how those old recurves, over time, they really hold their value a lot more than a flagship bow does once a couple years goes by. I wish that wasn't really the case. The whole reason I switched back to compound bows was just really moving out west and knowing that I was probably going to need to take longer shots than I was taking out of tree stands in Wisconsin. I didn't want to really limit my opportunity, being my first time Western hunting, going after elk, going after stuff in open areas, having accuracy over 50 yards seemed a little bit more important. So I decided to pick it up again. And don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying shooting my compound bow, but there's just some things that I do miss. For a while, I experimented with shooting a bare compound bow just with the fingers. That's actually what turned me on to prime bows in the first place. I figured that dual cam would help kind of minimize any torque I was putting on those cams with my fingers. So I had I think it was a Prime Synergy, and it was fun, but it was hard for me to feel real confident in it just because it shoots so damn fast compared to a recurve does. I actually had that bow blow up in my face. I remember I was shooting, pulled back, the knock actually popped off as I was drawing back. I must have not put it down all the way, and I kind of panicked and went to let the bow down, but also catch the arrow at the same time and just let go and just dry fired that thing, and the cables went flying around, whipped me in the face. It was pretty gnarly stuff, and one of the cams on the top was literally just shriveled up, like the cables had just torn that metal up and just shaved it like shredded cheese. That's when I stopped shooting a bare compound bow with my fingers. I think too, one of the key differences between compound archery and traditional archery is just with traditional archery, you're almost trying to become one with that equipment. You know, you're trying to really make that bow and that arrow and that string part of yourself, and it's such a simple tool that it's not too hard to do, and that makes sense in your head. But once you get to compound archery, I mean, there's so much that goes into a bow like this, and to shoot one of these really well, you're almost trying to take yourself out of the equation, because if you just set these things up in a shooting rig, you know, they'll shoot bullet holes all day long. You're the problem in the system, and that's really unfortunate. So I guess my question to you guys is, how can I make this tool right here a legacy item that's simple, gonna last a long time, something that can have a legacy to it, get passed down, hold its value over time, something I'm gonna be happy and proud to shoot for years to come. If you could only pick one compound bow to shoot for the rest of your life, what would it be and why? There it is. Stay on the path.